to a very green room. No, it is not going to be this green all the time. This is just kind of our accent wall, and a lot of this is actually going to be covered up when we're all done. But I thought I would take the opportunity while I have this kind of solid colored background to explain where we were, what we're trying to accomplish, and to kind of give you a peek about the inspiration for the Playroom Remodel. I'll post a picture of what we had before, and in this room there was a very odd cabinet kind of kitchen setup. So there was a sink, there was a weird hole in the cabinetry that I think you were supposed to put a fridge in. There was a low bench that I believe was used to house a TV, which is something we don't have in our playroom, so there was just a lot of dead space above this bench. And even though it looked like it was a very useful setup for a certain type of life, that is not the life that we have for a family with 2 young kids. And we knew when we moved into this house that the playroom was something that we were going to want to tackle, but we weren't quite sure how we wanted to change things. And I'm glad we waited, because after lockdown and the kids and I spending almost 7 weeks down here doing everything from schoolwork to playing to pretty much living during the day, I had some very strong opinions about what I wanted to see in this room. So my priorities were, number one, we had to have a lot of storage, but also kind of concealed storage. So I wanted a place for everything, but I also wanted to be able to hide everything away so I didn't have to look at a lot of clutter. I think it's great that they have this stuff and they play with it and they rotate through things, but I don't necessarily want to look at it. It kind of gives me anxiety. So the ability to put things behind cabinet doors, very important. The second thing that was super important for this playroom change-up was that we have a good place to do schoolwork. So that might just be for homework as they get older, but God forbid we have to go back into lockdown. I wanted a better school setup. So I wanted to make sure that we had 2 very defined kids' workstations, and that each kid had a little bit of space at those workstations to house their own things. So once I had those kind of 2 main priorities in mind, I went down a Pinterest wormhole, which is a very dangerous place to be. And fortunately, my husband kind of reined me in when I started showing him some absolutely insane pictures of things that we could do down here. This was the inspiration photo that we finally agreed on. And you'll notice that there is a green accent wall background, but you don't actually see very much of it. We are obviously customizing this concept to fix our space, but this was what we were kind of going for. We both love the idea that there are some natural colors and surfaces in this, so everything isn't stark white. Everything, it doesn't look like it's really adult, even though it's a very pleasing picture to look at. We both like the little burst of the color in here, but it's still muted. It's not crazy going wild with color. And we've even been able to source some of the exact same things that were used in this photo, even though we are in New Zealand. So I'm very excited to see where this all goes, and let's watch the process unfold. first thing to notice is, of course, the floor change. This used to be the browny gray rug carpet that's all over the house in the other bedrooms and in some of the other common spaces. But as you can see, this is right by the pool, and carpet and pool are a bad combination. So we have taken up the carpet and put down this pine, which matches the rest of the wood in the house. But when we pulled up the carpet, that also meant that we had to pull up the underfloor heating. So we ended up putting in that heating cooling unit up there that you can see at the top. And that's actually been a godsend, because before we couldn't cool this room, but now we've got air conditioning and heating in here. And honestly, the air conditioning is more important because this room gets hot a lot easier than it gets cold. So let's go in and see all the big changes. All right, so here is our final product, and we are so happy with the changes in this space. This really fits with what our family needs right now with 2 kids, and it just gives us the storage we need, the workspace we need, all that good stuff. So we worked with the cut shop. We gave them the dimensions of everything that we wanted. We went through our design idea with them. They gave some suggestions to make things better. But at the end, this really was our design, and then they brought it to life. And they also had all of the Bloom hardware that we wanted to match the rest of the house, and it was just a very, very simple, quick process to work with them. So if you feel like you have the skills to do some installation, but you don't want to do all the wood cutting, cannot recommend them highly enough. They were great. They really made this process possible. So on the far left, it's probably the most exciting bit, because that is where all of our toy storage goes. So you open the cabinet doors, and then I've got these really, really big, deep drawers to store everything. I love having the drawers in here because that means that stuff doesn't get lost, crammed in the back. You can see everything that's there and everything gets played with. So having all this great storage space was one of my top priorities, and I really feel like I got it. And then you see the 2 workstations, and each workstation has its own set of drawers, so each kid has some personal space to store things. And then that middle cabinet is where we're going to put a printer. We've got a slide out kind of platform there, and then a hidden drawer in there for things like paper and ink and other printer supplies. We have the IKEA SCOTUS pegboard or is it SCATUS? Pegboard and all of those accessories. So even though there is not an IKEA in New Zealand, you can in fact get IKEA things here, especially from a company called Urban Sales. They're located here in Auckland. Don't look at the US prices when you're making this order, though. It will just make you cry. They really do jack up the price, which is painful. So you've been warned. And since everything has a place, the kids have really done a much better job putting things back when it's time to clean up, and that has really been great for my sanity. And you'll notice, this is something that I'm really excited about, they've got those little trays with an elastic band above their workstation, and that's where I put their iPads for Zoom classes during homeschool, and that worked so well. And because I have a background in video conferencing, I was really concerned about the lighting situation for Zoom calls. So in the bottom of the shelf, we've got LED lighting, and then each workstation has those white task lights, which can be adjusted and basically change into a ring light. It'll shine right on your face, and it'll really illuminate your face during a video conference. So even though there are huge windows on the other side doing a lot of backlighting, the kids can still show up in their distance learning calls. So on the top 2 shelves, right now it's just kind of decorative and fun. You will see the infamous Jonathan Adler whale bookends that I became irrationally obsessed with for this project. So if you've read my Where Is It More Expensive, I believe it's episode 8, I talk about these bookends and the quest of finding the best price for them. But I did in fact get them, and they are holding up some of my dad's books, so it's kind of fun to have a piece of him in here. The accessories are a combination of artwork that we've done, some books and other things of the kids, and then let's see, at the top left we've got a vase from Sita, then we've got some shells we've collected from the beach, the book and bookends, of course. That white basket is from the warehouse. On the bottom shelf we've got the astronaut, I believe that's from Nude, it was just really silly and fun. And then the white little hedgehog at the end is actually from Kmart. So none of these are particularly expensive. I mean, this is a playroom, there's a fairly good chance someone's gonna like shoot all this stuff with Nerf bullets, at which point they're gonna crash and burn. So I didn't spend a whole lot on any of this, but I think having little pops of white look good. And then on the far right, you'll see a big door, and that actually goes back into a huge storage space where I keep all of the supplies the kids are not allowed to have. So things like paint and glitter and other things that need to be a little bit more heavily supervised are all back there, but they're all nicely organized on shelves, and that's really great. Now, you got a little glimpse of this earlier, but one of the things that I think really adds character to this room is our new art wall. This wall used to be Miami Vice inspired. There's this terrible 80s glass brick that was there, and I really just hated it. So we decided to use this and turn it into a display place for all the kids' favorite artwork. And so we got cork rolls, and you do need to double it up if you're doing cork rolls like this so that the push pins won't go into your wall. But 2 layers of cork roll, and then just some molding pieces from the hardware store to make a custom frame that we painted the same colors of the wall, and there you have it. It was a pretty easy project, but I love how it gives a contained space for the chaos of kids' artwork, and this is constantly changing. They kind of pick and choose things to put up there, and it's been a really fun little museum of kids' stuff. So there you have it, the big change in the playroom. I will link down below the vendors that we used, because I would recommend all of them. They all did a great job. And some of the products that we used and where to find them in New Zealand, because it's not always obvious where to find certain things, but we are pretty happy with this transformation, and I know it's a place that we're going to use for years to come.